And it's April with April Rising, and today I wanted to do a part of my story, so we will call this part one. And I do want to give a warning that there could be some triggers in this, some graphic materials, and I'm just not one that really holds back. I believe that God has called me to take my story and take my mess of life and turn it into a message so I can hopefully encourage other people, give other people hope, and just shed light onto a subject that's touchy and messy and confusing and hurtful. So, before I dive in, I want to give you a little bit of a view of what my life was like the majority of 6 years. So, so I got into a relationship with somebody who mirrored all the good things that I was. Now, I believe that he didn't intentionally become or evolve into, who he was. I think that he went through a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, and his upbringing was never healed. And we are so much alike that I brought out the ugly in him, and in turn, my responses were ugly back. I'm not an ugly person. I don't think that he's an ugly person. I think that we were just like oil and water, and it did not work out well. The communication did not work out well. I stuck in this relationship because it was always great when it was great. It was looking forward to the next fun adventure, and that kept us hanging on. I ended up getting pregnant, then it was hanging on for the baby. It was always some other reason on why we were trying to just hang on. And it didn't matter to us that it was destructive and damaging to everyone around us, our kids especially. They're probably the biggest victims in it all. I mean, we are too, but they were the ones that had to witness and listen to things that they didn't need to for a period of time. And I know this firsthand because this is how I grew up. And this is the repercussions of somebody who hadn't fully healed from their childhood trauma. I consciously stayed away from it for a long time, but once I felt like I was strong enough and I was healed enough, I was susceptible to finding a relationship that mimicked my parents' relationship, and that is exactly what happened. And I say that because a lot of people are doing that, and they may not even realize that they're doing it. So take a hard look and see if you've actually healed yourself and gone through the process of healing and working with somebody else to get through those things, to help coach you and get you through that. I stayed far longer than I ever should have stayed. The time I really should have walked away is when he got so angry at me because his phone was going off one day, and he had just gotten a new phone, but the other phone was like dead and like was turning back on, and it was like over and over and over and over and over again. And he had told me that he got rid of Snapchat and wasn't talking to this female, and he was outside and the phone started going off, and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's going crazy. And so I looked, and it was Snapchat, and it was a female. And so I came outside, and I was like, I confronted him. You said that this was over, you weren't doing Snapchat, that it was done, da 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 da, and I caught him in a lie. And he got so angry so fast. he grabbed the phone. He's yelling at me, why would I go through his phone? Why this? And like typical abusive behavior, put it all back on me. Just like when I was growing up, putting all the blame back on me. And he grabbed that phone, and I was probably 15 feet away from him, and he threw it like a baseball straight at me. And thank God it didn't hit my face, because it would have broken bones in my face, and it just hit me square in the chest. And I was bruised, heavily bruised on my chest for 2 weeks. And that should have been the moment that I left. That should have been the moment that I walked away, and that should have been my eye-opening moment. But if you've ever been in an abusive relationship and you've ever dealt with the addiction of that, then you understand where I'm coming from. If you haven't been in this situation, please don't try to help people in these situations by not fully understanding what they're going through and just telling them, just leave, it's easy, just leave. Because your body and the chemical release in your body and your mind, you literally become addicted to this roller coaster. Constantly, he said he was leaving me. Constantly, he did leave me. Every single week, he left. Every single week, I was begging for him to come home and crying my eyes out and crying every day over something. For 6 years. This went on for 6 years. That is a very long time. That is a very long, painful lesson. And I'm embarrassed, honestly. I'm embarrassed that I was so weak. I'm embarrassed that I didn't listen to God. I'm embarrassed that I let somebody disrespect me and mentally abuse me so bad. I got so far embarrassed and so far ashamed that I just dug in a hole and became more of a recluse and just didn't even want to say anything. I just held in the anger and held in the frustration and just lost all of me. But this person on the outside to everybody else was an amazing individual. He was so kind and so charming and so charismatic and befriended so many. Everybody wanted to be his friend. And he would tell me that everybody hated me and everybody knew who I really was and everybody saw through my BS, and he would always put it back on me to where I questioned who I was. I questioned my ability to think. I questioned my ability to trust. I questioned my judgment. I questioned everyone around me. I didn't trust a soul. Because this person who's telling me that they love me is showing me that they hate me, going behind my back, talking trash about me. The person that's supposed to constantly have my back no matter what was the one who was out there sabotaging me and ruining relationships and then telling me basically that I deserved it. Finally, I got to a point, it was actually during his planning for his 40th birthday. I finally got to the point where enough was enough. I had realized then that I would never be able to be what he wanted me to be. I would never be pretty enough because the girls on Instagram and the girls on TikTok and the girls on Facebook and everybody else deserved all his hearts and comments and likes and flirtatious comments and whatever else. Everybody else deserved that. I didn't deserve it, and I didn't think that that I was pretty enough, smart enough, talented enough at all. But deep down, I like knew that I was. Deep down, it was the most confusing time of my life, honestly. I mean, it's just so confusing and it's so hard to put into words. And I finally decided in August 2024, I was like, I'm done. I got to figure out how to get out of this. And it took me from August 2024 all the way until April 2025 for me to finally say enough. I finally am done with you. And even after that, there was still like, because we were so used to the roller coaster, the back and forth, I was done in April 2025, but we were still back and forthing it, in essence, again, using our son as the reason why. Now, at some point in this relationship, I would say probably 2022, God told me to walk away. God told me to let him go. God told me, and I have it written down, that if you let him go and you trust me, I will fix this. I will work it out. But I did not even trust God. I think I almost felt like I deserved it somehow. It had been so brainwashed into my head that I thought that I deserved this treatment, because I have been getting this treatment when I was a kid too. This is all familiar to me. This was all normal. The blaming, the talking trash, the accusations constantly, the never good enough, the sexualizing me. It was just a constant thing that I had been used to since I was a child. And there was a large period of time that I didn't live like that, but I went back to it because, again, I wasn't fully healed. But I did not obey what the Lord told me back in 2022, and I did not walk away. And things magnified and got worse and worse and worse. And then in 2025, in April, I finally made that choice and I said I was done. It didn't fully click into his head until June. It took 2 months for it to click into his head. And finally, he accepted the fact that I was truly done. And I finally saw the worth in myself. And I finally realized that I deserved to be treated better. Our son deserved to have a better example. I had already lost everything. I lost my houses. I lost relationship with my daughters. I lost my businesses, many businesses, because there was just so much turmoil and chaos going on in life that I just could not function, and I could not maintain the things that I needed to maintain in the lifestyle that I wanted. And I didn't have a partner that was helping me. And finally, I put my foot down and I broke free, and I finally had him leave and be done and be gone. And I'm not going to get into what happened after he left and after I finally put my foot down. That's going to be on a different one. But I will say that God is faithful, and sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to catch up to what God has told us to do, and then, we finally do what he says, and then he can finally work and finally heal, restore, deliver, all of those amazing, beautiful things. And I'm very grateful that we have a God that's so merciful for us and so constant and just truly never gives up on us. And I can sit here and look at you all and know that I'm healed now. I will never fall for manipulation again. I do still struggle with trust. I do still struggle with trusting myself and my ability to trust other people. That is still a work in progress. But the Lord is showing up constantly and reminding me that if I just trust him and I trust the direction and the things that he shows me and that he does, and just the amazing, beautiful things that only he could do, that it's slowly building my trust in myself, but more importantly, that I can just trust him, because again, I made such awful choices and lived them for so long and hurt so many people because of those choices that I am grateful that I have a living God that I can now trust and not have to try to depend on my own understanding or my own perception, because God sees all. and God knows everyone's true hearts and true intentions, where I don't have to sit around and speculate anymore or try to dive in and be the investigator and figure it out, that I can just trust the Lord that He's got it all figured out. And if I follow His direction and really do what He tells me to do, then everything's going to be all right and everything's going to be beautiful. And so I'll do a different podcast a different day on the miracles that happened from that time when I finally put my foot down and released everything to the Lord, and how that worked, and how 4.5 months later, that person is a completely different person. Completely different. I mean, so much so that, again, I'm struggling with believing that he is so completely different. I am struggling with trying to grasp if it's some sort of manipulation or if there's some sort of fakeness. And it's been, a 1.5 months of solid, consistent, changed behaviors. And God just keeps telling me, stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. And it is very hard for me. I have days where it's very hard, and he's so understanding. And when I get triggered, he stays calm, and he understands that there are some repercussions still and some healing that has to happen. But I can't wait to do another podcast and go over the deliverance and the things that happened during that 4 months. And I'll probably do the podcast with him so he can tell you his side, because God really moved with him and in him and through him. And all I see is this other side and this other person that's so hard to believe that it's even real. Because I look back on, and he constantly says, that old person was trash. That old person is gone. That old person is dead. He's like, I'm embarrassed that was me. And to have that accountability for me is huge. And so rediscovering a new person is weird. But I want to give you hope. And the message that I really just want you to grasp onto is, in whatever your situation is, trust the Lord. Trust him. Because I wish I would have just listened back in 2022 and avoided the other years of hurt and chaos and just been strong enough to do it then. But for whatever reason, I had to go through the journey and learn my lessons. But if God is telling you whatever he's telling you, listen and trust him and know that he's got your best interest at heart, and he's seeing all sides of the scenario and the situations that you're going through. And also trust that people can change. When God comes in, the person that just came to my mind was Paul in the meeting with Jesus on the road. He used to persecute Christians, like God still does this. He still delivers people and changes them fully. And so maybe you're one of those people that needs to change. And I know that's hard sometimes for us to accept, but maybe that's you. Maybe you need to go through the healing process and you need to change. Maybe you're the one that's the abuser and you've got unhealed trauma and childhood things that you need to get through. Go to the feet of Jesus. That's all I can say is, like, when you do that, the joy and the peace and the life that you get and the abundance of blessings. Look, it makes me so emotional because there's so many big things happening in our life now. It's undeniable. You don't have to live in misery. You don't have to cry sad tears every day. You don't have to live a life that's full of chaos and hurt and pain. That is not what God wants for you. It's not. And you don't deserve it. So if somebody's telling you that you do, or that that's all you amount to and that's what you're worth, that's not true. That is a lie straight from hell. And you don't deserve that. And I'm here living proof to share testimony that people can change and that you can have grace and you can have mercy for people and you can have the strength to walk away. You can. You can.